Hi everyone, I'm Eirin, and I'm going to tell you how me and my colleague Marcus created a point-and-click game with only AI art. So initially we created a first draft for like a knowledge sharing session in where I work. And yeah, why we did it because it's fun. Like we wanted to create a game and do something practical with the AI and the image generation. And it had at that point a year ago, it had just started getting like common for everyone, so everyone could use it. So yeah, it was fun. So this is our first draft. It's not very nice, but it works. You can pick up some stuff, and we have a main character down in the corner, and we have different scenes, and we have even cutscenes. So it was fun to make, but it wasn't really playable. So when we were going to present this at the Booster conference in Bergen, and when we did that, we wanted to make an actual playable, fun puzzle game, and that's when we made the Adventures of Detective Bao, which he's a detective panda and he's really good at solving mysteries. So at that point, it was maybe 6 months later, and there were already a lot more different models and more features, which allowed us to create better quality images, and we could make more customizations to the scenes. And we also had learned some things about prompt engineering and how to make our images better. So that allowed us to go from this to this, which is a big improvement, or so I think. But there were still some challenges. So we had this main character panda that we wanted in every scene. And in the first draft, we had a copy paste of a character we generated once into every scene. And now we wanted him more integrated into our game, and we wanted different poses and all of that stuff. But that was hard until we discovered that we could fine tune a version of Stable Diffusion to create our panda or variations of him every time. But for that, we needed a data set. So we did a lot of different prompts to try and generate different pandas. So here's a couple of them. And I mean, I think these look good. And so we got a data set of 18 pictures. And to allow the model to learn the similarities between the pictures, we removed the background. And that way we don't get any background noises from our model. And that allowed us to do this. And we could use our custom prompt Bao to like initialize the panda thing. But that weren't like that good. I mean, look at him. But luckily, there's a feature called upscaling, which takes the original prompt you have and it takes the picture you generated and it tries to improve the quality of the image. And then you get this, which is nice. And here's another example of how we did it. But I also wanted to show you some of our bad examples because it's not always working the way you want. And sometimes we would get this. Or even pandas that shouldn't be pandas. So don't get discouraged if your results are horrible the first few times you try. Okay, so now you know how we created our main character. But I also wanted to walk you through how we made one of our scenes in the game, because it can look like we just made a scene and we inputted some text to a model and that's it, but it's really not. So we started with something super basic. So this is the bedroom scene in our game. And here we want to remove some ugly things. And so we used the brush tool and they're gone. But this is kind of small for a point and click game, so we need to extend it a bit. So we added a golden dragon statue because that was our idea at the time. But this wasn't the AI's idea, but we'll see that shortly. So, but we still needed it a bit bigger, so we extended it more. And we did it incrementally to allow the AI to still get the context of the image and create or build on it. Here we have a panda that's not the panda model panda, because this was before we created that model. But we will replace him later on. But we still need the picture to be properly sized. So we cropped it and we extended it even more. And at this point, we're pretty happy with the picture and the items in it. But the quality is not how we want it to be. So we fed this image through another AI model, and we had this. And that's the model with the upscaling. Here you can see that the dragon statue is replaced with some pumpkin things because the new AI didn't want their statue. But here we could also upscale and get it better. And then we replaced the panda with a cutout from our dataset. And then we created some variations of it. And this is almost a finished scene. We have some finishing touches and some things I'm not showing you because we don't have time. But if you play our game, I have a link to it, then you can see if you can see the differences. Okay, so that's a scene. But for an interactive puzzle game, we also need some puzzles. And we tried to generate some puzzles, and we wanted a computer screen with some colorful buttons you could interact with. So we inputted that to the AI, and we had this result a lot of times. It doesn't really work at all because it doesn't understand the concepts of buttons you can click on a screen. It just understands colorful, fun, cool things. And so we had to think new. So we drew this sketch in Paint, because Paint is the only thing we know how to do. And we tried to ask the AI to improve it for us. And so there is this thing called initialization strength, which allows the AI to see how similar to your original picture should it be. So if you set it really high, then you can get something like this, which is maybe a slightly better version of what we had. But if you set it lower and lower and lower, then it's not recognizable anymore. So you need to find a sweet spot for the strength and how similar you want it to be. So we ended up with this, which is a better version of our Paint sketch, which is also what we wanted. So that's nice. And then we added a computer screen and a clear button. And the AI even wrote this clear text. And if you've tried generating text with image generators, you know that that's nearly impossible. So we're really happy with this. But there is another model that's really good at writing text, and that's ChatGPT. And when we created this second draft, ChatGPT was just released, so we decided that we wanted all of the story and all of the text to be created with ChatGPT. And that worked pretty well. But so I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, could you help me create some text? And it said, of course. But then it took me a while to get the text on the format that I wanted because ChatGPT really, really wanted me to write a story and not point-and-click text. But eventually, I managed. And then I wanted text for a window. So I asked for punny comments because why not? And I asked for 10 of them because most of them were pretty bad. Yeah. And then I asked for 10 more because they were still pretty bad. And 10 more. And when they still weren't good, and I was getting a bit annoyed because I was spending a lot of time on comments for a small window, I asked for 20 more. But someone else was also getting tired. I'm sorry, but I cannot fulfill your request for 20 more funny comments about a small window, as it goes beyond the scope of our previous agreement. I believe I have provided you with ample funny comments about small windows. So I guess the moral of this story is that even AI grow tired of bad puns. Okay, so that's basically how we created our game. But I wanted to talk you through some of the things we learned. So there's a lot of advantages. You can try out a lot of different concepts in a short amount of time, and it's really accessible for everyone. You don't have to learn to draw anymore. Or you don't have to ask someone to do it for you. You can test a lot of things easily. And if you want really specific things, then you might have to go somewhere else, but it's really good at trying out different things. For example, you could create a baguette Eiffel Tower. I don't think many of you have seen that before. Or you can create an octopus with a headset in a starry night. And you also have a lot of different styles you can try. For example, you can have photorealistic images, or you can have Chinese watercolors, or you can have uncanny valley. You can have one-line drawings, or low poly, or digital art, or if you want, you can even have psychedelic art. And there's also this nice thing you can do where you can input one of your favorite artists, such as Kandinsky or Monet, and then you can combine them and you can get some cool results. So that's some of my favorite things with this. But there are also some challenges. Sometimes it can be a struggle to get the positioning, especially in images, correctly. Like here, we're trying to get a cat on the moon, but some of the time it is in front of the moon. You can see the same thing with these boxes. Here I'm trying to get a red cube on top of the blue cube. But yeah, that's not working. Or at least not all of the time. Sometimes it gets it right, but it's more random. And it also struggles to separate concepts properly. Okay, this is a weird image, but I'm trying to get both the bear and the unicorn, but instead I'm getting some unicorn berry things that I'm not sure. And it also struggles when you're trying to make stuff that's the opposite of what you see in the real world. So if you want to generate a human catching a fish, that's pretty simple. But if you want a fish catching a human, that's almost impossible. I don't think I have a single example where we actually made this work. So, and there's a few more things. So it can't count. It can't write. And it most definitely can't do hands. Yeah. But we have a few tips and tricks up our sleeves, or at least now we do. You can play a lot around with the wording. And also the most important thing should often go in the beginning of the prompt, because that's where the most focus is, I think. So here we're trying to get a cat in the kitchen, but there's no cat. And here we're putting the cat in the front of the prompt, and now we have a cat. But then we lost a bit of the kitchen, so it's a trade-off. And some models are also good at different things. So if you want something, you can try a few different models and see what works best for you. And then you can play around with different positions and camera angles and stuff to see what happens. So you can have a close-up or a full body image. And there's also something that's called magic words. So here I have a painting of a cat, but then I can add one of my magic words and it can get better without really doing anything. So I can say a professional painting of a cat, or even a professional painting of a cat that's HD and ultra detailed. And now the image is just better, and I didn't really have to do anything except add some magic words. And maybe my favorite is this one. You can add, you don't have to be good at drawing. This is my drawing. It's not great, but then you can create some variations of it with AI, and suddenly you have an actual hat. So that's nice. Okay, that's me. This is for my game. It's best on computer, or for our game, me and Marcus, my colleague. But yeah, it's best on computer. You might have trouble clicking on stuff on mobile, but you can try. It's still fun. Thank you.